We begin at Queen's Park, where talks have broken down between the province and the union representing thousands of education support workers. And now parents are preparing for a strike. Phil Perkins is live outside the legislature with the very latest. Phil.
Good evening, Taz. That's right. Well, the notwithstanding clause, a controversial bill, has officially been passed here at the legislature literally less than 30 minutes ago. And what that means is that now the Ontario government is mandating the 55,000 education workers, support staffs like janitors, custodial staffs across Ontario to go to work tomorrow and to accept a contract of the government's choosing. And of course, we learned today, those 55,000 workers are not going to go to work. They're going on strike tomorrow, at least for one day. Could be more than that. And while they weren't in the same room together, the Minister of Education and the leader of the unions who were negotiating, boy, they were heated, and you can feel that heat throughout the legislature. The union representing 55,000 education workers and support staff have this message for parents heading into next week as thousands plan to walk off the job tomorrow.
I'd make plans. Definitely I would make plans.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce was the first to announce that talks between the union and province on a new contract broke down after a mediator said the two parties were just too far apart.
I find it unacceptable that millions of people and their parents have to be home, that they're scrambling for childcare because of a difference fundamentally on higher pay.
The union initially asked for 11% raises every year for 3 years. Some of the lowest paid workers make on average $39,000 a year. Since then, the group has dropped that request, but Laura Walton, the president of CUPE's Ontario School Board Council of Unions, says her members can only handle so much.
Education workers who can no longer afford to do the work that they love. You cannot fill a gas tank with passion. You need money, and at a time when inflation is at 7%, to say, please, lowest paid in the province when it comes to education workers, please take pennies. If they think that that is going to be acceptable, it just won't.
In an effort to keep schools open, the Ontario government is on pace to pass the notwithstanding clause, a rarely used piece of legislation which circumvents the negotiation process with the union and forces them to stay on the job.
I think about the rights of a child when it comes to access to breakfast programs. There are kids that are not going to eat part of our nutrition programs because they rely on schools as a safe place. The most vulnerable kids among us in all of our communities are the ones who will pay the price most disproportionately, and it is for them that the government is acting.
Through this legislation, any strike that occurs is deemed illegal, and the province vows to fine every union member on strike $4,000 each, or up to $500,000 per local union. A fine Walton says her group will deal with in court.
Why is this government fighting so hard to prevent the services that kids need from coming in? Why is that? Why are they fighting so hard to keep the most impoverished further in poverty? And quite frankly, fining us $400, $4,000, $500,000, it's kind of like a bully asking for your school money, your lunch money every day. At one point, you're going to have to stand up to that bully.
Lecce feels he has the support of parents of children who have already endured the longest break from in-person learning in Canada due to the pandemic.
And I would argue most parents would accept the premise. This is an unprecedented challenge on children, and they're seeing the regression in their children's social, emotional, physical, and mental health.
And leaders of the opposition parties all feel that the Ford government invoking the notwithstanding clause is unprecedented on its own, and they feel like this is not going to be an isolated incident. They feel that them doing this will have a ripple effect across the country, with other provincial governments doing the exact same thing if they find themselves in tough negotiations.